Welcome to the Go Procast, where we invite business doers who are changing lives by sharing their stories, their strategies and tactics, and who bravely talk about their failures that actually led to their biggest successes. Now it's time to Go Pro with Jeremy Torres. My guest today is a pioneer in E-Mediation. Having started E-Mediation Services in 2018, she is an attorney, a mediator, and an arbitrator who has dedicated her professional career to teaching others about conflict resolution, mediation ethics, and E-Mediation techniques. Christy is considered a leader in the field of conflict resolution. She's also served as chairwoman of Florida's Mediator Ethics and Advisory Committee. Moreover, she serves as an officer in the alternative dispute resolution sector of the Florida Bar. In 2010, Christy's popular presentation style led her to teaching in higher education because she is a teacher at heart and loves teaching groups about how to create peace in their workplace. She currently serves as visiting lecturer at the University of Central Florida. Please welcome a big GoPro welcome to Christy Foley. Hey, welcome, Christy.
Hello. Thank you so much for having me today, Jeremy.
No problem. Me being a dyslexic and somebody who has to struggle with reading your bio was very hard because I kept saying mediation. I think I had to record your intro 10 times. But what you do is much more interesting than meditation. Meditation. Did I say meditation? I was saying mediation. I kept saying meditation. So I can't even say it right.
Most people do, so don't feel alone in that.
Yeah, meditation is because it's what everyone talks about, but nobody talks about mediation. And so I'm happy to have you on today. I do have to start the show, though, with the same question I ask everyone. It's only one question I ask everyone, and that is to ask you to tell us something good.
Yeah, absolutely. So one good thing, at least with my life right now, is that I'm expecting a baby. So I am very excited. And
right off the bat, you get the lightning. That is huge life news. Congratulations.
Thank you.
I wish I had fireworks and everything.
Right?
Just the walls melt. Congratulations.
Thank you so much. So definitely something great going on in my life.
Are we the first to find out? Did you tell your husband yet?
I did tell him, I will say.
Okay. But, we're happy with number two.
Exactly. It's not too bad being number two, right?
No, not something like that. We're honored. Well, that's great. So let's start at the beginning. You're an attorney in Central Florida. The area is a wonderful place to be an attorney because you have a lot of Florida man here, right?
Yes.
So what type of law do you practice, or have you practiced along your line here?
So I mainly practice entertainment and small business law. I actually have a background in the television broadcast industry. So it was a natural fit for me to go into entertainment law and work with filmmakers and musicians and authors and people like that. So it's actually been really cool. I've gotten to go to some red carpet premieres and read some books before they hit the shelves and things like that. And so it's a really fun job. I always tell people when I do legal work, my whole job is to protect my creative clients before their stuff hits the market. And if I do my job right, if I get all their contracts right, all their intellectual property right, then they don't have to worry about lawsuits after the fact, and they can just enjoy reaping the benefits of whatever they created. So exactly. I'm kind of on the fun side of the law.
It is. I think you probably have your hands full sometimes, though, with the actions of these types of people after you represent them, because maybe the creation part is safe, but they tend to be very risky folks too. I mean, I can identify my last name is Too Risk,
right?
But I bet they keep you on your toes anyway.
Yes, but life would be boring without that, so it's okay.
So, did you go to school down here in Florida? Have you been a Floridian for most of your life?
So I am a native Floridian, but I left for about a decade and I went up to Boston and New York for a
Oh,
while.
those are
And then
great
I came back
places.
to Florida.
Yes, yeah. I tell people I moved to Florida when I met my mom in 1971.
I
So
love
I was
that.
born here as well. Very rare, very rare.
Right.
So you get you're in Florida. You become an attorney. You're in the entertainment space.
Mhm.
When did you start really paying attention to how useful mediation is in arbitration? And then I guess does that come and lead to the conflict resolution part
Mhm.
of the things that you do now? Was that
Definitely.
the fun part of it? Helping people get over the things that are between them.
Yes, it's very fun for me. So I actually got into mediation when I was still in law school because I knew I wanted to go into entertainment law. I knew entertainment law involved a lot of negotiations. And I thought, well, if I can have the skills of a mediator, then I'll probably be a better negotiator. So when I was in law school, I participated in like a mediation clinic and started volunteering at the local courthouse as a mediator, things like that. And I
Mm.
was instantly bit by the mediation bug. And for many years after I got out of law school, I was like, well, I'm an attorney and I should just be an attorney. These crazy things
Well,
that we think when we're
but you
25.
are an attorney, but you're not. It's what percentage of cases actually go to trial? A very small
Exactly. It's
percentage,
a
right?
very small percentage. And so, I would take maybe a morning off every other week, every fourth week, something like that. And I would go volunteer at the local courthouse as a mediator just for fun.
Wow.
And after about 7 years of doing that, I realized, you know what? I love mediation, and maybe I should be doing it more than just for fun.
Hmm. Now, when you say when you're mediating, do you not have to have a law degree to be a
You
mediator?
don't. No,
Oh, I see.
most people prefer that you have a law degree because they want you to know the ins and outs of the legal battle that lies ahead of people. Because as a mediator, your job is to really talk to people about, hey, if we don't settle today, then what does the future look like for you? What would a trial look like for you? What are your chances of success in front of a judge or a jury? Things of that nature. And it's helpful if the mediator really has a realistic picture of those things.
Hmm. So
So
that
a
gives
lot
you
of
some
people prefer.
authenticity.
Mhm.
But
Exactly.
being a good lawyer does not translate into being a good moderator or mediator.
Right.
And so, what are
Exactly.
some of the things that you think you got instilled in you through your coming up in Florida and your environment that makes you such a great mediator?
I think one of the skills that I have that is most helpful for mediators is listening actively. Listening actively is something that most people are not very good at. They will listen, and as someone is talking, they will formulate an answer in their head. And when they do that, they stop really listening to
Right.
what's being said. So,
This is number 53, and it took me to 52 to get this good. So
right.
that's a hard skill.
It is. It's a very hard skill. And I think maybe even being a Floridian helped me with that because are so fortunate in Orlando, especially. We have so many tourists, and I used to love hearing their stories and getting to know them, hearing about where they're from. And so I just grew up kind of naturally inquisitive, and I loved listening to what other people had to tell me about like the foreign lands that they were from.
Well, to
And
that
so,
point, if they have an accent, you have to listen harder to understand
yes,
and process too, right? I
definitely.
find the same thing.
Yeah. So you know what I'm talking about. And yeah, I think that that was really helpful. So one of the things that I like to teach, because now I'll do a lot of speaking engagements either at conferences or even just corporate trainings. And so when I go into those corporate trainings or speaking engagements, one of the things I love to tell people is, hey, look, you've got to rethink the way you listen. And if someone gets done talking to you and you can't reframe or restate what they've said, you haven't done a good job of listening to them. It's that simple.
I do the Chris Voss trick, so I would have said, listening to them. You repeat the last three words they said with a high pitch or up pitch
Right?
accent, and then they start telling you more. It's such a great
It's true.
trick.
Sometimes you can get away with that for sure.
Yeah, my favorite though is the late night DJ, FM DJ voice. He does. He's a great speaker and a great teacher of negotiation skills.
Right.
If you don't know about Chris Voss, he's he's
Yeah.
definitely in my favorites where I could read him over and over again.
Right.
And you have to listen to him because he barely speaks English like me. I have marble mouth like Chris. All right, he says English is barely his second language. So tell me about your work ethic. How does that have to be to stay in the game and get excited, and how does that play a role in what you do?
So I am definitely a workaholic, but it
I
makes me
resemble that
happy,
comment.
so I figure it's okay.
Right. Yeah. And
Yeah.
how does that work on the family?
Luckily, my husband is a workaholic as well, so he completely understands and supports me because I'll be on my computer till 8 o'clock at night, and so will he. So
Yeah, I come in here, dark 30, and I leave at dark 30, whatever, post dark
exactly,
30.
you know what I mean
Well,
then.
when you love what you do so much, it's not working. It's like saying make your vacation your vocation, right? You never work a day. Talking to people for a living like this, for me, and whether it's on stage or on camera, is really, what we do. You do the same thing. People are afraid to speak because of whatever that thing they have, the normal thing, right? We're not the normal ones.
Right.
So how does that play into helping people with conflict distress in conflict resolution? Not having the fear of speaking and being able to get your point across to the two parties.
Yeah, I love teaching. So as you mentioned, I've been teaching in higher ed since 2010. And so teaching is definitely my calling. And when I am helping people get through a mediation, or when I'm teaching a new artist the steps that they need to go through in order to get their book or their song protected, or whether I'm teaching at the University of Central Florida, regardless, I'm teaching and I'm in my happy place. So I really enjoy that atmosphere. And I think it's helpful, in a variety of settings. So I'm very lucky like that.
I think you have something else too that you may not even know. And you said it when you said, and I'm going to take my glasses off. I'm doing an imitation of you. Helping people, right? And that's not a bad way. It doesn't look as good as you did it, but it's the empathy face. You really probably have a lot of empathy for the people that you're helping because it came right through on your face.
Well, I'm glad my face speaks loudly for me.
It does. And it's a good thing to have empathy. How do you can one develop empathy? And, what's the difference between, people say sympathy and empathy?
Yeah.
What's the small differences and how can we develop empathy?
Empathy is definitely something that takes practice and understanding, right? Like, as you mentioned, Jeremy, there's a difference between sympathy and empathy. And actually, Brene Brown has a great video on this. I don't know if you've ever seen it, but I would encourage anyone who's listening today to check it out. It basically explains the difference between sympathy and empathy as saying sympathy can often come across as being condescending. I'm sorry you're dealing with that kind of thing. Whereas empathy is, this sucks and I'm here for you if you need it. And, if there's anything I can do for you, let me know. Otherwise, I'm just going to kind of sit here with you in this moment because I know this moment is hard. And as a mediator, I have to empathize with people constantly. I have to sit with them for 8 hours and I have to help them realize, this is a hard decision for you to make. But let's talk about why this decision is so hard for you. Let's talk about the pros and cons of this decision. Let's stay in this moment and figure out what you really want to do and just kind of be their support person. And honestly, it takes a lot for someone to trust you and to open up to you enough to let you be their support person. And for me, I think that's one of the things that when I'm mediating or even just teaching to my students, if they're opening up to me and they're letting me be their support system,
yes,
that's a heck of a lot of trust they're putting in me. And it just makes me feel so good that they trust me enough to let me be their support system in that moment.
Yeah, these are very stressful times for people when they're in mediation. Probably, they say buying a house, the biggest purchase of their lives. But when they're in a situation where they're involved with a lawsuit or trying to defend something or trying to get something back, it's probably more stressful than any other situation that they've ever been in. And it could go on for years sometimes. So that's where the importance of the mediator is. And you mentioned focused or work with someone for 8 hours. So what is future focused to you? I know you used that word.
Yes. So focusing on the future is something I do a lot in my mediations. I joke with people a little bit in my mediations that unless you are Doc Brown and you have a time machine, in which case I totally want to ride in that DeLorean,
Right.
we can't dwell on the past too much. And we need to be focused on the future. We need to focus on what future you can create for yourself today that is going to make you happiest.
I love that.
So for me, it's all about their personal perspective. What is going to make them happy? What is going to get stress out of their lives? What's going to perhaps save them money, save them time, if those are things they care about. Often people care about those things, but it's not always a priority for people. So I very much help people to focus on the future. You know, a lot of times people need to vent about the past, which is fine. We all need that from time to time in order to be able to focus on the future. But after a while, it's good to shift our mindset, stop focusing on the past, ignore time machines, and just think about how to create a peaceful future for ourselves.
Yeah, we had the mediation that we confused with meditation earlier, but the key word here is another M word, and that's moderation. All right, I tell especially I won't even say who, but your rear view mirror is this small for a reason, and your windshield is this big for a reason, and that's about the proportion that you want to go through life in.
I love that. That's a great metaphor.
You can have it. I want credit 3 times.
I will definitely give you credit for that one.
Well, we say around here, we're not into research and development, the typical R&D. We like rip off and duplicate. So be my guest.
Nice.
How do you come to speaking in front of large audiences? And that's one of my favorite things. In fact, I have my Your Biggest Fear is How I Make a Living t-shirt on today.
Love it.
But how do you find speaking in front of large crowds? And also, I really want to get something for me. I'm going to be selfish here for the audience, is the engagement that you claim to have, because that is so hard on a live stage and even harder virtually to engage the audience, especially like you said, on the larger audience. Can you give us some tips? Because we have a lot of professional speakers that listen to the show, and luckily they support me and I support them. So can you give some
we all have to support each other. Are you kidding?
Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah, so I think
tips?
for me, making it engaging is really important. And all my years of teaching in higher ed, I've learned that you have to really read your audience and make sure no one's checking out. And really, if you want to be on top of things, don't give them an opportunity to check out. So make it engaging before they have that chance, right? Is the key. So for me, I like to play little games. For example, I'm doing some corporate trainings right now for one company, and we're talking about employment discrimination and emotional intelligence. And we're playing a game called Legal or Not. And it's as simple as, if you think it's legal, you raise your hand. And if you don't think it's legal, you keep your hand down. But you know what? At least for those 10 minutes of Legal or Not, you're not just sitting there. And that's the kind of thing that whether I'm doing it on Zoom or I'm doing it in person, I can get a big group engaged that way. I also like to try and create time for small groups to get together. And then for us to come back and talk about what happened in your small groups. Because I think people, especially if you have a group of like 1,000 or more, people need a little bit of a break if you're talking for an hour or two.
Yeah, especially depending on who you follow sometimes.
Right. Yep. And so it's really helpful when you give them a chance to express their own voice. And then if you set up some microphones throughout the room and you just say, hey, if anyone from your group wants to come up and share a synopsis of what your group talked about, I would love to hear it. And I'm sure other people in the room would love to hear it as well. And I found that to be really effective, because the second people start talking, you'll hear other people in the room. You'll hear the buzz. When they hit on something that a lot of people felt, you'll hear that buzz, and you'll know as a speaker, hey, I wasn't going to address that, but maybe this is something I should address because it's clearly resonating with the audience. And so for me, it's just a helpful guideline, to be honest with you.
Well, I think you're cutting yourself a little bit short too, because what I hear in what you say kind of stems from getting the client's trust in a mediation. It's getting that audience's trust immediately and fast, because when you ask somebody legal or not, especially in a smaller group where their peers are watching and they're answering wrong, They're going to trust you that you're not setting up a gotcha moment. All right?
Right.
And so you're getting their trust, and they can trust you, and they can be vulnerable and saying what I don't know. Because especially with people that you deal with are probably on the upper level of corporate structure, I would imagine. And so they probably feel they're pretty smart people and don't like to be wrong, at
Right.
times. So that's a skill that you have probably developed over a long time. And so I commend you for that.
I appreciate that. I do have a theory with my students, which is, whether it's in a corporate setting or just in the university setting, you got to try your best for me.
Yes.
I don't expect anyone to be perfect. I'm not perfect. Nobody's perfect as far as I'm concerned, but you got to give it your best shot. So that's kind of the groundwork that I set for everyone at the beginning. And that's all I ask of my participants.
We call it
so I think that helps them to have a little more confidence that there's no expectation they get all the answers right.
Right. Yeah. My threshold is act at the speed of instruction. We hear something and you're told to do something, let's get on it. Let's not procrastinate. And that shows me that you got the giddy up to go do something, the gumption. And then you're okay when you fail a little bit and stumble because you're acting that motion. Absolutely. I want to get, we're running out of the time, but I want to get to something that I think is important to you. And from reading your website and everything is the E-Mediation.com or the E-Mediation techniques. Mm-hmm. So first of all, to get in touch with Christy, let's knock that out really quick. The best way is at, I guess it's C Foley email, right? C Foley, CFOLEY at emediationservices.com.
You got it.
I'm not spelling that whole thing out. I said it right. I'm proud of myself.
You did well.
But here's what for the viewers, the website is there's the E-Mediation Services. .com website. That's what it looks like. It's a great website. It tells you what she does for you. And then there is a ChristyTalks.com. And this is the About Christy Foley Esquire. I always wanted those letters up to my name. I got a funny story about my life in lawyers, but we'll save that for a time when we have more time to talk. This is about you. So let us talk a little bit about did it again. I did it for Mediation Services.
Yes.
How did you come across that?
So I actually had a pretty serious surgery back in 2018, and I was on bed rest for 8 weeks. And I had a former mediation client who called me and said, "Hey, I really want to do mediation with you. It's a family business that's breaking up." He knew my style. He knew I addressed a lot of emotional issues as well as legal issues in mediation, which sometimes get left out. And he said, "I really need you to mediate this case." And I was like, "I'm sorry, but I'm on bed rest.
Right.
Like, I can't help you for a few months."
Wow.
And he's like, "Find a way. Just find a way." He's like, "I don't care that you're on bed rest.
Wow.
Find a way." And I've told the other side, "You're our mediator," which was super sweet of him. And luckily, I had been teaching master's level classes online for a few years at this point, since 2010, actually. And this was 2018. And so I said to him, with my master's students, I use this GoToMeeting platform. We do like virtual conferencing. I've never used it for a mediation before, but if you want to give it a shot, the doctor has said, as long as I stay in bed on the laptop, I'm okay. I can give it a shot for you. And luckily, they were willing to give it a shot. And after the mediation ended and settled, which was wonderful, I looked at my husband and I said, "Wow, that was really cool." And that could help more than just me. Think about all the personal injury clients or all the elderly clients dealing with like wills, trusts, and estates issues. Think about all the people who maybe can't easily make it to mediation.
Well, then you got to jumpstart. You got to jumpstart there on something that happened to everybody, no matter what their situation was, just about 18 months after that.
Right. And it also ended up being really beneficial when people were far away from each other. So I did some mediations for people who were injured or sick, or people who were far away. Like I had one case that was worth maybe $20,000. One attorney was in Miami, another was in Tallahassee. I was in Orlando. No one wanted to travel. A $20,000 case for most attorneys is not a high dollar value case. No one wanted to travel for that. So we did it via Zoom.
Right.
And so, yeah, I like to say that I started e-mediating before COVID made it cool.
Yeah,
Because, of course, once COVID hit, everyone started e-mediating as well.
yeah, and you got the great name, Emediation Services.com. You know you were the first woman to get the best name like that. I have to settle for like USG or something. I was something nobody will ever figure out because I always think about things a little too late, but that's okay. Better late than never, right?
Exactly.
So how can we help you? What's your jam? What should people listening to this, if they have a problem and they need your help, who do you think is your best client to give you a call and make you happiest these days?
I love working with small to medium-sized businesses. That's been really rewarding for me lately. Coming in, helping them learn conflict resolution skills, helping them learn emotional intelligence. I have really enjoyed that because I found that a lot of leaders in companies get promoted because they are really good at their job, not because they necessarily have leadership skills.
Right. No, leadership is tough because you're asked to do the things that no one else wants to do or can do.
Right.
And when you are good at solving other people's problems, you are in demand. And conflict resolution is something that I've never thought of myself as that great on. I've obviously done well at it, but I've never really thought of myself that good because I don't handle my own conflict within my head very well. So, but that doesn't mean that I don't, that I turn that light outward. You
handle it better when it's external conflict.
Right, because then I got to get out of my own head for a minute.
Absolutely.
But it's really served me well. And that's why we were talking before we came on air that I'm always looking to get 1% better. Yeah. I always have a coach on payroll. And right now I'm in conflict resolution training with somebody who's a specialist in it because it is so important with employee retention and engagement this time, during the Great Resignation. Yes. You are probably as busy as at least you want to be. So
yes, I'm very fortunate in that regard. And honestly, for me, a lot of times I go into these companies and there are people who are fairly new in their leadership role because of the Great Resignation. They just recently got promoted in the last year or two. And they're like, I was good at my job, but I don't know what I'm doing as a leader. There was no leadership training. Like I just got thrown into everything.
Classic
and they feel
mistake.
Overwhelmed. And by the time I leave, they can actually take a deep breath. And some of them have looked at me and said, thank you so much. I can relax now.
Right.
Like I can actually handle my job now. And to me, that's the huge rewarding moment. That's what I love hearing. So.
Yeah, I think two biggest mistakes that employers make is one, hiring the resemblance of themselves. So you have the team full of bulls, right? Yep. And no lambs to really deal with the soft issues. If the leadership is that way. And then also the second classic mistake is taking somebody really great at their position and making them in charge of everyone else without any support and set up for planning and teaching them how to lead. And that is sometimes people just love being the best at their job and don't really want to deal with other people who aren't as good as them, and now they're responsible for them.
Yeah.
And so that is huge, big mistake. So there's probably a lot of work for you, but our audiences, especially since it's kind of in my wheelhouse with the employee engagement, we're going to have hopefully a lot of business for you and another conversation on the risk factor when that comes out in a few months.
Love to have I'm you looking forward to that.
Well, thank you very, very much. If you stick around, I forgot to tell you when we started, stick around because I want to come back after we record and give you a proper goodbye.
Thank you so much, Jeremy.
And we want to thank you very much for tuning in to the GoProcast because getting rid of that reactive mindset and having that proactive mindset will separate you from everyone else in your league, and you'll get anything you want in this life by helping more people than you need. Helping people with things that they need, you'll get what you want. And thinking positively. Earlier today, I was talking about someone about what do I do every day to try to get in that mindset, and that is just getting up early before everyone else does and writing something positive. And if I'm not in a space to write something positive about myself, I look for something positive in my life to write about. And so that's a tip for the day for the GoProcast, positive mindset. Thank you very much for watching, and we will see you next time. Remember to go pro.